All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty wild. We're going to talk about applying some of the most powerful technology we have, artificial intelligence, to a field that is, let's just say, a little bit out there. We are exploring where cutting-edge tech meets the paranormal.
So let's just jump right into the big question, shall we? Can artificial intelligence actually hear ghosts? What if we could use the smartest tech on the planet to listen for voices from beyond? I know it sounds like something straight out of a movie, but you'd be surprised how much of the groundwork is already being laid.
But before we can even get into how AI fits into all this, we've got to get on the same page about the core idea here, the phenomenon that's been at the very heart of ghost hunting for decades. And that brings us to what's known as electronic voice phenomenon, or EVP for short. This is really the bedrock of modern paranormal investigation. The whole idea is that you can go into a silent room, hit record, and when you play it back, you might just hear a voice that nobody heard at the time. Now, what's really interesting is that it's not just a free-for-all of spooky sounds. Investigators actually have a system for this. They classify EVPs based on how clear they are. A Class A is the holy grail, a voice that's supposedly crystal clear, no doubt about it. But then you get down to Class B and C, and that's where things get murky. The sounds are fainter, need a lot of cleanup, and honestly, they're way more open to just being noise.
So you've really got two completely different ways of looking at this. On one side, you have the belief that these are actual spirits trying to communicate, sometimes even giving intelligent answers to questions. And on the other side, well, you have the scientific explanations. Things like stray radio signals getting picked up. Or, and this is a fascinating one, auditory pareidolia. That's just a fancy term for our brain's tendency to find meaningful patterns in random noise. You know, like when you hear a word in the hum of a fan.
Okay, so for the sake of argument, let's just park the skepticism for a minute. Let's assume there is something there in the static. What happens when you throw AI into the mix? Could this be the tool that finally makes these voices undeniable? I mean, the potential is just huge. Think of AI as this ultimate sound guy, right? It could use incredibly sophisticated algorithms to filter out all the background junk, isolate a single faint whisper from all the other noise, and maybe even turn it into text right there on the spot. We're talking real-time feedback during an actual investigation. Okay, but here is the massive catch. There are some really big problems here. An AI can clean up a sound file, sure, but it has no way of knowing if that voice is a spirit or just a bit of a radio broadcast bleeding through. And the biggest issue is the training data. It's a classic chicken and egg problem. How can you teach an AI to find ghost voices if you don't have a library of 100% verified ghost voices to begin with? You run a very real risk of the AI just creating voices out of static because that's what you told it to look for.
So if you were going to build one of these systems, how would it actually work? What would that step-by-step process even look like?
It all comes down to a four-stage pipeline. Super logical, really. First, you've got to capture super high-quality clean audio. Garbage in, garbage out, right? Next, the AI would process that audio, scrubbing out all the known background noise. Then comes the analyze stage, where the system hunts for any anomalies that sound like a voice. And finally, and this is absolutely the most important part, you validate. You do everything you can to rule out every other possible explanation.
And this isn't just about digging through old recordings after the fact. No, the real game changer is where this technology is headed, doing all of this continuously in real time. You can actually see the baby steps of this right now on your phone. There are apps out there that claim to use basic AI for this stuff, but let's fast forward 5 or 10 years. You could have a device in your home that looks just like a smart speaker, but instead of listening for Hey Google, its whole job is to passively listen for potential EVPs, 24/7.
And this is where things get really, and I mean really science fiction. What happens when you mash up this real-time ghost listening tech with the coming wave of humanoid robots?
Okay, now this is the key. The timelines for both of these incredible technologies, the always-on EVP detectors and commercially available humanoid robots, they're predicted to line up almost perfectly. They're on a collision course for sometime around 2030 to 2035. And when that happens, we're looking at two wild, completely different paths forward. On one path, you have simulation. The robot becomes a kind of advanced grief bot. It uses AI to analyze a deceased loved one's entire digital footprint, their texts, their voice notes, everything, to perfectly mimic them for comfort. But on the other path, the paranormal one, the robot becomes a physical conduit. It would use that real-time EVP tech to listen for messages and then speak them aloud, potentially creating a two-way conversation. So that's where we're left.
with this massive, kind of chilling question. As these technologies become real, are we about to totally revolutionize how we handle grief and how we think about the afterlife? Or are we just building an incredibly sophisticated, deeply comforting, but ultimately dangerous illusion? That's a question technology itself is never going to be able to answer for us.